Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Trip Forman, and today we have with us Jon Pyzel from Pyzel Surfboards, and we're going to be talking about the Pyzel Ghost. Jon, tell us a little bit about this board, where it came from, and what it's doing today.
This is the board that kind of has changed kind of our whole lineup, because when Jon started riding this board, I made him one. We've been making him for team riders and stuff. I hadn't made any for shops or anybody. Mm-hmm. And then I made him one and a 6'2", and then that was the board that he ended up he didn't even talk to me about it. And then I saw a photo, and he's doing a huge gigantic air at back door, a big rotation.
Right.
I'm like, what board is that? And he's like, oh, it's that 1.62 you made me. And I'm all right. And then he took that same board, and then that was the one that he ended up riding at Margaret River 2016, I guess it was, where he just
that event was insane.
And people were just like, wow, no one's surfed like that or whatever it was.
Right, right.
Pretty much kind of opened up people's eyes about the board and just a whole different kind of thing of surfing. And that just drew a lot of interest to the board. Obviously, anything that he's riding, people want to kind of check out. And that really kind of pushed us in a new direction, which is where we ended up with all these boards kind of based off this board.
Okay. And I mean, that board, he rode it at Margaret River, but he rode it at a lot of the European events.
He rode it anytime. Well, it was a 6'2", so his normal Ghost now is a 6'0", his shortboard Ghost or smaller board would be a 6'0". Right. So it was kind of a step up, but then it was one of those, he rode it at Bell's, he rode it anywhere it was kind of solid and juicy, he was riding that. And then he even got the way he is, he gets really, he gets kind of fixated on one design. He doesn't like to have 50 different choices of boards when he goes into a contest. Right. He wants to know hey, this is it. I've made up my mind. I've done everything I need to do ahead of time. Yep. He's one of those guys that comes in prepared, not let me figure it out as it goes along. And so he was riding these boards, maybe sometimes maybe shouldn't have been. He was riding a Ghost at Trestles when it was this big. He had an epoxy board, so it was a real light version of 6.0, and he was actually surfing really well on it.
Right.
And that kind of tripped people out too, because they're like, wow, I thought that was more of a bigger wave board.
Right.
And so a lot of people rode this board. We sold more Ghosts compared to everything else that year, and tons of people rode them. But what happened is a lot of people realized hey, there's kind of a limitation to it. If you're not Jon, it might not be the best board when it's shoulder high and not that powerful or whatever. And so from there, even though people were riding them and pretty happy with them, but the feedback was always kind of yeah, it's great, but if it's this big or bigger, I love it or whatever. And so then I started thinking about well, why don't we, let's use this as a baseline and squish it down into something that will work good when it's this big. And then that's where we went into the Phantom.
Okay.
The Phantom's basically if you take a Ghost and you just go and squish it down, you end up with a little wider nose, wider tail. There's no hip in the Ghost, so there's no hip on the Phantom. And then it has this wider tail, but it kept the rocker basically the same. Changed a little bit, added a little bit of concave to it, changed it a tiny bit, but not much. And then put a little more volume in the rail for the thickness of the board, because the Ghost has a super refined rail. So this, you'd want a little bit more volume for weaker waves. And then that thing, people started, so basically I could say, hey, if you like the Ghost, try the Phantom.
Try the Phantom.
And people were like, oh, unreal. And that kind of answered that question, or pushed people, not pushed people, but just made people happy with the smaller wave performance. And then that, in turn, made us go, well, hell, let's go a little further, and we'll make an even grovelier, tinier, so this is even a Phantom squished down even more, but way more volume. We chunked it up a lot. So the Gremlin's if you're really in that grovelly range, but at the same time, the cool thing about all these boards is that they work really well in good surf too. So there's we changed the thicknesses and width and everything to kind of accommodate smaller surf, but at the same time, the curves through the board
still work.
Yeah, they still feel good in good waves. So a better surfer could ride a little Gremlin in good surf and be really happy with it. Whereas a more average guy is going to want something more his size, or maybe even a little bigger than him or whatever.
Okay. Let's rewind to the Ghost.
Sure.
How did that board, what's the secret sauce inside the Ghost? Where was the breakaway from everybody's normal board to the Ghost that made it different?
Basically what this thing was it actually started off with a step-up board. and like the rocker from a step-up board and the outline and everything. And then essentially I chopped the nose off that. And so imagine like if this thing is a 6.0, imagine that this was a 6.4. So this would just continue on up here, like a narrower nose, and the wide point would be about the middle, and then, or maybe even a little bit back on a step up, you know? So basically I chopped off that 4 inches, and you have so that moves the wide point up. It moves, and I left all the thickness the same. So you have this thickness that's not normal. Like it's a forward thickness, forward wide point. And then a little bit wider nose, but not like super, there's no, like some boards have like more of an ear almost here, a wider nose. This is still pretty streamlined. So it's not like catchy. But so basically what you're doing is just getting rid of some extra stuff in front of you. But I didn't really change much from the back. Like I pretty much left everything the same. So what you have too with like a step-up board is you have that thinned out rail. Everything kind of thins out through the tail. So you have this beef up front underneath your chest where you're paddling, and then you have this refined tail, and the rail is a little bit thin too. So you have a board that has a lot of flotation, really easy paddling, and it's got a really clean rocker line. Like it's not like a flip nose. It's not super low rocker, but it looks lower rocker because it's thick through here. Like in this part. So like if you look at the deck, you're like, oh, it's really flat. But if you look at the bottom, it actually has some curve through it. But that just gives you a lot of drive. It gives you like a lot of off your front foot too. You have a lot of, there's nothing pushing back against you when you're driving off your front foot. And then when you step back into the tail, a pulled in tail, a lot of people think like it's going to make a board really tight, but actually having all that curve through it, the outline kind of keeps it loose. And then at the same time, you want to ride this board kind of shorter than you would a normal like step up at all. So you're riding like, if you normally are going to ride a 6.4, you're on a 6.0. So that loosens the board up too, just by being shorter. It fits into different little, you can kind of draw like a tighter line and adjust your line a little bit easier. So that was kind of the whole thinking with that really, was basically like the first one for Jon that I made was like, I was thinking like, oh, you're going to surf this at backdoor and like weave through tubes and have a little freedom, but it'll still be like, it was a 6.2, but you'll be able to ride on the days when you ride like a 6.4 or 6.6. And that's kind of how he started a little bit, but then it ended up like he just loved how it held in. You can really push really hard through turns on it, but it's pretty forgiving. Just the overall rocker's real smooth and just real clean. So you don't feel any kinks in it.
And especially like riding a shorter length is going to feel more like your normal board. It's like not like you're going up to a 6.6.
Yeah, you don't have that feeling when you step up to a normal, like a step up gun that's like really rockered out and thin. It's just a waste. Like, why do you need a big thin nose that's sticking way out and up in front of you? You're not utilizing that. So just get rid of it. And then, then it does feel like you can ride a 6.0. It's like a step up, and then you can have a 5.11 that's your short board that feels great too.
Let's take a look real quick at the Ghost Pro. Now, what's the difference? This is a new model from Pyzel. What's the difference between a standard Ghost and a Ghost Pro, and who's that board for?
This thing is what we found out is like the Ghost stock boards tend to be a little bit thick and wide for a guy that actually is like a better surfer maybe that wants to go on a trip to go surf good waves. The regular Ghost is like, people are using this all over the place in decent waves. This is more like if a guy's kind of like just not as big, like I can't ride a Ghost stock dims, but a Ghost Pro, I'm closer to that with my weight. Like I weigh 165. So it's like something it's a little narrower, it's a little thinner, just the stock dims. Everything else on it is exactly the same. There's no like change in the bottom or anything else. It's just more of a refined version of the Ghost. For guys that just don't have, they want more of like a high performance step up board basically. But as far as like the design itself, it's absolutely the same. It's
all right, cool.
Slim dims, I guess.
There you go. Yeah.
And then
it's like body types, really.
Yeah, totally. So it's just offering like, it's hard to make a stock board for everyone. You know, size wise, it's like it's a little tricky, and especially with a board that has a lot of volume to it for its thickness. I don't know. We just wanted to have something for a wider range of people, basically.
Cool. Well, thanks, Jon. We appreciate you coming here to Reel and giving us the inside skinny on the Pyzel Ghost. If you have any questions on the Pyzel Ghost, or you'd like to place an order for one, either in stock or custom order, give us a call at the shop, 252-987-6000, or look us up online, reelwatersports.com/surfing. Thanks for tuning in.